Mark Bradbury is a Lincolnshire-born American man who lives in Bournemouth. Confused? After moving to the United States at the age of 1, he attended high school before returning back to the UK at 19. At the age of 56, Mark has now been living here for over 3 decades and is semi-retired with 2 daughters and working part-time at Marks & Spencer as a salesman. With a brother in Delaware and his father in Florida, Mark travels back to the States every couple of years, but maintains that his roots are planted firmly in England. At his local pub in Charminster, Mark talks about the differences between the two nations.
I think the English tend to be a bit more reserved. They have to work. I'm speaking for my generation, not yours. They've had to work at having a good time. The Americans, it's like breathing. They can party effortlessly, and they can have a good time effortlessly. The English have to plan for that. It may have changed, I don't know, but that's the way I've always found it. Is even today, you know, it says they make huge plans where the Americans just kind of throw a few bottles of beer together and go fishing. That's the number one. That's kind of, the Americans have a more relaxed attitude toward life. On the irritating side, they are also convinced that they are the center of the universe. The English aren't quite as arrogant. They realize there's another world out there. But it's just, you take the good with the bad. I mean, the reason I came over here, the original reason, is that in the 70s, you could get a very good job without having to go through college. I didn't like further education much. You know, I preferred to be paid at that time for what I was doing. And in this country, you could get quite a good job based on enthusiasm, willingness to work, willingness to learn. I know that's changed. And in the States, you need a college education to sweep the streets. So that was the original reason I came over. When I got a family, the education kept me here, because the educational system, even in the government-run schools, are far superior to what they are in most of the United States. I know because I compared my kids against my brother's kids, and my kids were 2 years in advance almost all the way through. And now I stay here because this country doesn't allow its citizens to have AK-47s and body armor for home defense. That's scary. So, you know, the reasons have changed, but I still prefer this country. When I first got here, I did miss some things. Back in the 70s, England couldn't do a pizza to save their souls. They can now. But really, because the world's shrunk to such an extent, there is nothing I can't get here that I couldn't pick up in the United States. You know, in terms of basically anything. It's become a world market. There's very little. You've got McDonald's here. I did a company sketch for a training program, and I once claimed that McDonald's was taking over the world. Everybody thought that was hilarious. Nobody's laughing now. You've got the fast food joints, you've got the steaks, you've got the drinks, you've got the food. There is nothing here that I miss that dramatic. I miss American football. I miss college football on days like today. Yeah, that I'll miss, but not enough to go back. I think the level of violence has certainly gotten worse. I think its obsession with terrorism has made it more paranoid, had made it less friendly, has made it a harsher place. Shootings, colleagues who've been made redundant go and shoot their boss and then get killed by the police. So commonplace it's not even newsworthy anymore. No one's asking a question, what are you doing here? Because they think now that this is a better place. One of the English's greatest faults is it runs itself down and its institutions down far too much. they really don't realize just how good a country they have. Politically, geographically, culturally, any way you want it, this is a garden spot, and it's one of the most civilized places on the planet left. And they really knock themselves far too much. They don't give themselves enough credit. It came as a huge surprise when the Olympics came out, but they did it well, and everybody was astonished by that, and I don't see why. You know, we pull off events, the royal weddings and the rest of it, better than anybody else on earth. And it's a little bit headbanging that, people knock themselves. They shouldn't.
One of the things Mark thinks Britain should be proud of is the NHS, and he explains how healthcare in America can be troublesome and expensive.
The NHS, for me, is very good. I'll give you an example. My sister has just been in a car accident in Florida. Not too bad, but she was insured for $10,000 for any kind of car accident. Went through that in a week. Is now having to sue the person that hit her from the back, and in order to reclaim the money that she's going to have to spend for hospitalization and recovery. The NHS, you wouldn't have quite the same problems. This country has a better safety net. It's what Obamacare was supposed to be about, was a safety net.
Living in the UK, Mark is unable to vote in the upcoming presidential election, but this has not stopped him from forging some strong opinions on American politics.
I have a situation whereas I was born in this country. I have an American passport through my father. So what I have is an American passport with permanent stay of residence in this country. But to have that means I can't vote in either country. Never really been a problem, since most times I would rather vote for Mickey Mouse than any of them. So, from that, I take an interest, but I don't actually have a vote. From my point of view, I think Obama will win this election. And then if you play this in 2 weeks' time and I'm wrong, you can have a good laugh. But I think he will carry the minorities. He will certainly carry the women's vote. And I think the American public will regard him as a safer pair of hands, eventually as a safer pair of hands than Romney. But I might be wrong. I want Obama to win. I think Romney's an idiot, to be perfectly blunt. I mean, no one who sits there and gives a speech in public saying that 47% he doesn't care about 47% of the voters because they're never going to vote for him anyway, and that the scoundrels doesn't deserve to be in any public office at all. And you could argue that was a private function, but the first rule of politicians is there's nothing private anymore. To say that in anywhere other than the confines of his own head disqualifies him as being a politician for any office. That's ludicrous. It's the same as this idiot chief whip chewing up a police officer who he may or may not call pleb. You just don't do this, and stay in public office. It doesn't work. American politics is personality driven. It's based on likability. In England, it's party politics. It is, you're not voting for a person, you're voting for a particular party. In America, you're almost voting for a person. And I think that is your main difference. It's changed. Since Thatcher, it may have changed a little bit. Tony Blair was a prime example. He took every leaf out of the American political book, used it, worked it, and was elected. Basically by saying anything the electorate wanted to hear in order to get elected. But basically, you're electing a party, you're not electing a person. It gets worrying when you get some of the caliber of people at the moment on both sides of the Atlantic. Some of the people that have been elected office, under any normal circumstances in the private sector, probably wouldn't have a job licking stamps, and that's a little worrying. I'm going over on election day. My father is going to be in a very grumpy mood when I get to the airport. He's a lifelong Republican, and he's got a real problem because he hates the Democrats and Obama, but he thinks that Romney is an idiot. How does he vote? He says Obama's more capable than Romney. He says, but that isn't saying a huge amount. He says a lampshade would be more capable than Romney. How do I vote? He says, I suggested to him that he vote for the one that he likes the most or hates the least. And he says in that case it's got to be Obama, and that's going to kill him.